Do you have sunspots, age spots, liver spots, melasma? Well, if excess pigmentation, hyperpigmentation is your problem, then this podcast is definitely for you. I'm going to be going over why people get excess pigmentation and the treatments that actually work. Both creams, in-office treatments, stuff that you can do at home, pretty much everything you need to know. Okay, so this week, we're going to tackle a stubborn issue that a lot of us have, myself included, and that's hyperpigmentation. Hyperpigmentation basically is a catch-all term for excess pigmentation on your skin that you essentially don't want. And it really can take the form of two different types. The first type are age spots, or otherwise known as sunspots, otherwise known as liver spots. These are all basically different names for the same thing. And it's excess pigment in the superficial layers of the skin due to excess UV exposure or excess sun. So basically, UV damage causes the melanin in our skin to form clumps. And those clumps can then form little spots that we, once again, call age spots or sunspots. This pigment is basically in the superficial dermis. The dermis is the layer of the skin below the epidermis. The epidermis is that upper layer of skin that a lot of it kind of sloughs off when you're exfoliating. So in that superficial dermis lies melanin, this pigment that can increase in amount if you're getting too much sun exposure. And honestly, a freckle is the same thing as an age spot or sunspots. If you talk to dermatologists, they'll tell you freckles equal sunspots. It's basically the same thing. Now, they may not technically be age spots because people who are very young can get freckles, but essentially they are a sign of UV damage in the superficial dermis, causing clumping of melanin. Now, the thing to keep in mind, and one way to tell between an age spot slash sunspot and melasma is that sunspots are small, well-defined spots. Okay, so they're typically small. I have them on the side of my face here just because I don't wear sunscreen every day. I know I should, but I don't every day, and I drive to the office, to the hospital, to the operating room, and sometimes I get a little bit of sun on the side of my face. And so I definitely have more spots on the left side of my face than the right side, and this is pretty common. And so the only way to get rid of these spots, unfortunately, is to remove them. So if you've got these spots, and let's say you don't do anything about them, they're just going to continue to accumulate more and more and more unless you actively get rid of them. And I'm going to give you the tools and tell you exactly how to do that in this podcast. Melasma is a whole other deal. Melasma is pigment that's in the deeper skin. That's pigment also that doesn't form typically small spots, but patches, and oftentimes patches that are fairly symmetric. So melasma can be in both cheeks, it can be in the forehead, and once again, the way you got to think of melasma is not spots, but more patchy areas of pigment that are deep in the skin. Now, oftentimes, melasma is ill-defined, and so sometimes the borders are really hard to tell. In some ways, that can be good because if you wear makeup, you may be able to hide some of that melasma versus, let's say, a defined spot. And melasma also is related to hormones. Hormonal changes like pregnancy, birth control pills, they can both bring on melasma. And so you may find that after becoming pregnant or after giving birth, you've got melasma patches on your face, super, super common, and that's because of its connection to your hormones. Because that pigment is really deep in the dermis, because it's deep in that middle layer of skin, or that deeper layer of skin, it's really hard to get rid of in general. And so just light exfoliation doesn't get rid of melasma. A lot of creams don't do a whole lot for melasma. It can be a very stubborn thing to get rid of. And unfortunately with melasma, it tends to come back if you are exposed to sun, obviously if you become pregnant again. And so those are really the two types of hyperpigmentation. It's the spots, age spots, sunspots, liver spots, and melasma. Does your skin look a little more dull, tired, or less vibrant than it used to? Well, if so, you should consider using GU Skincare. It's a Korean skincare brand that's taking over the internet because of their incredible before and after results that people are seeing. GU helps your skin look healthier, smoother, brighter, firmer, and more youthful without requiring some complicated routine. Now, they're best known for their rejuvenation toner pads. And these are not your ordinary toner pads. Think of them as an entire Korean skincare routine packed into a single swipe. Every pad is saturated with 8 clinically backed Korean skincare actives. These include snail mucin for hydration and glow, peptides to support firmer looking skin, and niacinamide to help visibly brighten and even skin tone. Now, I tried them and found them to be gentle on my skin and a very effective skin brightener. Well, if you're trying GU for the first time, I'd recommend the Glow Up Bundle. It includes GU's best-selling toner polish pads and their moisturizer with NAD+. It's the easiest way to experience the full GU routine while getting the best overall value. For a limited time, GU is having a crazy deal for our Dr. Youn listeners. Their Glow Up Bundle is already up to 45% off right now, but our listeners can now get an additional 20% off plus free shipping with their code Dr. Youn at JIYUskin.com. That's JIYUskin.com and use the code DRYOUN for an additional 20% off. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them, so please support my show and tell them that I sent you. So how do you treat them? Well, the first thing obviously is going to be creams, okay? And typically I consider that there are 3 kind of types of brightening creams that are specifically meant to brighten your skin. The first type is probably the most popular, and these are ingredients like kojic acid, azelaic acid, niacinamide, and licorice root. These are ingredients that are put into brightening creams that can inhibit melanin production, and they are well tolerated. They tend to be safe to use for long term, but they're not as effective as some of these other creams I'm going to talk to you about. My Youn Beauty Brightening Cream, big seller for my Youn Beauty skincare line, does contain kojic acid, licorice root extract, and niacinamide. And so it's very effective. It's got kind of, the tripolar attacking of that pigment. But at the same time, these 3 ingredients, even though they're great ingredients for lightening, are not as powerful as some of these other ingredients I'm going to talk to you about. So it's kind of triple action technology, but that triple action is safe and gentle on your skin, unlike some of these others. So that's the first type. And if you go, let's say, to a drugstore and you get a brightening cream, if you go to a natural skincare store, clean skincare company, most of them will contain some combination of these types of ingredients, or maybe just one of them as a way to brighten your skin. And like I said, safe for long-term use. The second group I would say is glutathione. Glutathione is an antioxidant, and it is put into skincare creams as a way to brighten and lighten the skin. It does that by inhibiting tyrosinase. Tyrosinase helps to basically stimulate melanin deposition and inhibits that tyrosinase, and that causes less melanin to be put into the skin. Now, glutathione creams typically come in 1 and 2%. They're not nearly as popular as, let's say, niacinamide and kojic acid and licorice root extract and azelaic acid, but there are certain glutathione-based creams that are on the market today for lightening and brightening the skin. But you can also actually take glutathione orally. There are sublingual tablets that you can take of glutathione, and that can create a lightening effect of the skin from the inside out. In fact, you can even get glutathione via IV. And there are reports that people in Korea and Asian countries, one reason why they have lighter skin and literally porcelain white skin, some of that may be due to actual glutathione, either injections or taking it orally. Now, glutathione is an antioxidant, so in general, it's safe to have done. How aggressive is this lightening with IV? Honestly, we don't really see that here in the United States much at all, so I don't have much experience with it, but I'm just aware that this is something that you see in Asian countries much more commonly. So the third group of creams is the hydroquinone. Hydroquinone comes in prescription strength, which is 4% or higher. There are a couple of skincare brands here in the United States very famous for using hydroquinone prescription strength. That's Obagi and Zeo Skin Health. Both of them started by Dr. Zain Obagi. And 4% hydroquinone is a prescription strength skin lightener. Now, there used to be 2% hydroquinone, which was FDA approved for over-the-counter use. And you used to be able to buy this at the drugstore, at the department stores. But interestingly, in a COVID relief bill, they ended up inserting language that basically banned the use of over-the-counter hydroquinone in the United States. So now you can no longer find that anymore. What that has to do with COVID relief, I have no idea. But it's one of those things that Congress throws into a bill for reasons that we don't know, that had nothing to do with the bill, but they just do it. So that's what happened. So now 2% or over-the-counter strength hydroquinone is not allowed in the United States, but 4% and higher, which is prescription strength, is allowed. You have to, however, get it via a prescription or from a doctor's office. Now, hydroquinone, if you talk about what are the most effective creams to lighten the skin and to get rid of hyperpigmentation, hydroquinone prescription strength, that's the strongest one. But, and this is a big but, it is not something that you should use for longer than about 6 months at a time. And if you have very dark skin, you could potentially put yourself at risk of a condition called ochronosis. Ochronosis is a condition where some people will apply hydroquinone on their skin as a way to lighten it, and the opposite happens. The skin actually gets darker afterwards. And that is no fun when you get a lightening cream and now your skin looks darker. So that can happen. Typically, it only occurs in people with significantly darker skin types. If you have lighter skin, really, really unlikely for ochronosis to happen to you. But what can happen to you if you have lighter skin and you use hydroquinone for too long is you can get rebound hyperpigmentation when you go off of it. So it's kind of like your skin gets used to it, it gets resistant to it, and you even get a bit of hydroquinone withdrawal when you go off of it. And the way that you get that withdrawal is that you get extra pigment that starts showing up on your skin when you stop it. Yeah, so also another thing, not all that appealing. So if you're going to use hydroquinone, do it definitely under the care of a board-certified dermatologist or plastic surgeon, and only use it for 6-month stints at a time. Give yourself a break of several months in between that to make sure that you don't get this rebound hyperpigmentation and that your skin doesn't get overly used to it and get resistance to it. The other thing I should probably mention to you is it is not available in the European Union because in really high concentrations, it has been shown to cause cancer in laboratory rats. Now, my understanding is that this concentration is like as if you were bathing in hydroquinone. So we're talking about a lot of hydroquinone to truly cause cancer, but technically it does in laboratory rats. So something that you want to keep in mind. If you really want to go after a clean skincare ingredient, then hydroquinone really is not necessarily that one. But there are a lot of other ones that I have just mentioned that will fit that bill. And for us, we have actually my Youn Beauty Brightening Cream that I use twice a day, morning and evening, to help keep unwanted pigmentation at bay on my face. Most people think about hormones in terms of things like puberty, fertility, or menopause. But your hormones actually control a lot more of your day-to-day functioning than you might realize. Your endocrine system helps to regulate your metabolism, sleep, stress response, appetite, mood, and energy. But it's also incredibly sensitive to environmental toxins or endocrine-disrupting chemicals. Some of the most common sources of these chemicals are products that we use inside our homes each and every day. Things like fragrance cleaning sprays, laundry detergents, air fresheners, and disinfectants. So while we're trying to create a clean home, we may actually be increasing exposure to toxins that affect our health. That's why I recommend using Branch Basics. Branch Basics makes human-safe cleaning products made without fragrance or hormone disruptors and screened against thousands of known and suspected harmful chemicals. Everything starts with the Branch Basics Concentrate, which you mix with water to create cleaners for your kitchen, bathroom, windows, and more. It's a simple way to clean your home while reducing everyday exposure to hormone-disrupting chemicals. And here's the good news. Branch Basics is now available everywhere you shop, at Target, Target.com, Amazon, and BranchBasics.com. Tossing the toxins has never been more convenient. And for anyone grabbing the Premium Starter Kit, you can get 15% off at BranchBasics.com with our code Dr. Youn. The Premium Starter Kit comes with the concentrate and refillable bottles for your surface cleaners, including all-purpose, bathroom, streak-free, foaming hand wash, and laundry. It also comes with Oxygen Boost for extra stubborn stains on pots and pans, laundry, bathroom tile, and more. This kit is a great way to kickstart your human-safe cleaning routine. Just use code Dr. Youn for 15% off the premium starter kit at branchbasics.com. After you purchase, when they ask where you heard about them, please make sure to mention this show. So what can you do to get better results, quicker results with your hydroquinone? So a couple things. The first thing is you can combine it with some type of an exfoliator, whether it's a mechanical exfoliator or a chemical exfoliator. A mechanical exfoliator would be like a gentle scrub that you do a couple of times a week that can exfoliate that upper surface of dead skin cells and allow that cream to penetrate better so that you can get results quicker. The other thing that you can do is you can do that with a chemical-based exfoliator like an alpha hydroxy acid peel or a wash. And then you can also do something like retinols. Retinols also will increase cellular turnover, okay, get rid of that upper layer of dead skin cells. That can get better penetration of your brightener and cause it to work better. And retinol also is a very mild skin brightener in and of itself. Okay, now combining it then with an exfoliating agent can definitely get you better penetration. It can get you quicker results, but you can also combine it with vitamin C serums. Vitamin C serums are often packaged as skin brighteners. And yes, vitamin C does brighten the skin, but it's nowhere near as effective as some of those ingredients that I've just mentioned. It's still great for the skin. It's a great antioxidant. It helps to support collagen production in the skin, and it can brighten the skin, but it's not the ideal skin brightener. If you're going to use a vitamin C serum, and I do recommend everybody use one every single morning, there's two types to look for. The first type is L-ascorbic acid. That is more effective than the second type, but it's a bit less stable, okay? And so you want to make sure if you get an L-ascorbic acid that it is in a bottle that is opaque, that doesn't allow light in. You want to make sure that because of that it also is less stable, and it does actually have a higher risk of irritation. So if you've got real sensitive skin, then don't go with L-ascorbic acid. You want to go with sodium ascorbyl phosphate. Sodium ascorbyl phosphate is not quite as effective antioxidant and brightening wise as L-ascorbic acid, but it's much more stable and it causes less skin irritation. And so sodium ascorbyl phosphate, you want to look for 10 to 20% concentration of either L-ascorbic acid or sodium ascorbyl phosphate. In my Youn Beauty CE antioxidant serum, we have sodium ascorbyl phosphate. That's what we have because with it being our CE antioxidant serum and the fact that we are a quote-unquote clean skincare brand, I want to make sure to use those product ingredients that are less irritating to the skin, have the highest chance of you being able to tolerate it without any problems. Okay, so vitamin C serums you use in the morning, that's going to help with your brightening creams, but once again, it's not going to be the be-all end-all for pigmentation. Just like retinol. Retinol is great for improving your skin. It can help mildly with unwanted pigmentation, but it's not the ideal thing for pigmentation. But hey, you know what? If you're using a brightening cream, add the retinol to it in the evening, add the vitamin C or CE antioxidant serum to it in the morning, and now you're really hitting that pigment in 3 different ways. You're doing it all day. And we have at Youn Beauty our Sunspots bundle that contains all 3 that can really work nicely to help fight that unwanted pigment. And then the third thing you want to consider as far as types of creams is if you have melasma, ask a dermatologist about tranexamic acid. Tranexamic acid is interesting because it's all over plastic surgery and dermatology. We use it for so many things. I do a facelift. I put a small amount of tranexamic acid into my local anesthetic that I inject, and it helps to reduce bruising and bleeding. Who would have thought? But it also can help with melasma, and it's this magic ingredient that you can use both topically as well as orally to help with melasma. There's not a lot that can help with melasma, but tranexamic acid is one of the few things that really can. There was one study that found that oral TXA, tranexamic acid, we call it TXA for short, is effective in Asians with refractory melasma. So oral TXA was safe and effective in Asians who had melasma that was refractory, meaning it was resistant to other treatments, and they had a treatment course of about 12 weeks with oral TXA. Another study on oral TXA found a good or excellent response in 65% of patients. So good or excellent in 65%. That means 35% of patients did not have a good or excellent result. Melasma is really tough to treat, my friends. But tranexamic acid is one of the options that are definitely out there that could potentially help. So definitely you want to talk with a dermatologist if you want to do that. You can use topical TXA. That is a first-line therapy for melasma. Topically, not orally, but you can once again take it orally as well. But once again, got to get that through a dermatologist with a prescription. Even myself as a plastic surgeon, I don't prescribe TXA. I really leave that up to the dermatologist. I always aim to choose wellness solutions that can easily fit into my daily routine. That's why I love my red light face mask from Bond Charge. Bond Charge's premium products are grounded in science and driven by purpose. That includes their red light face mask, which combines beauty and wellness technology for a more radiant and glowing skin in as little as 10 minutes a day. It uses optimal wavelengths of red and near-infrared light that is suitable for all skin types. Plus, the mask is lightweight, portable, and contours perfectly to my face. Now, I wear it in the evening as I'm winding down, and better yet, you can even meditate or listen to my podcast while you're wearing it. Also, some Bond Charge products are HSA, FSA eligible, giving you tax-free savings of up to 30%. If you haven't ordered the Bond Charge Red Light Face Mask yet, what are you waiting for? For a limited time, my listeners get 15% off when you order from bondcharge.com and use my exclusive promo code Dr. Youn at checkout. That's BONCHARGE.com. You'll also get free shipping and a 12-month warranty. Go now to get this exclusive offer. That's bondcharge.com with promo code DRYOUN to get 15% off. All right, so what else can you do to prevent spots, prevent melasma? Super important. And I know this is not the most exciting or sexy thing to say, but it's sunscreen. Yes, sunscreen is probably the most important way to prevent both of these types of unwanted pigment, whether it's sunspots or whether it's melasma. Really, the best way to prevent it is using sunscreen. And this is because UV radiation is a super big cause of unwanted pigmentation, whether it is by that UV radiation causing clumping of those spots in your skin, or whether it is UV radiation combining with hormonal changes and things like that to create the patchiness of melasma. Now, in general, I recommend to use an SPF of 30 or more. You want to make sure it's broad spectrum, and pretty much the vast majority of sunscreens in the US now are broad spectrum, meaning they cover UVA and UVB rays. An SPF of 30 will block 97% of the sun's rays. If you have melasma, though, SPF 30 is not enough. You got to go up to SPF 50 or more, and now you're getting more like 99% blockage of those sun's rays. Also, usually I recommend avoiding oxybenzone and octinoxate if you can in your sunscreen. A lot of good sunscreen brands are getting rid of these two ingredients because of a couple of reasons. Some doctors believe they may disrupt hormones. They may mimic hormones in the body. Also, there's potential damage to the coral reefs. And so depending on where you live, if you live near the ocean, then a lot of the oxybenzone and octinoxate sunscreens are outlawed around those coral reefs. And so in general, you want to stay away from oxybenzone and octinoxate. If that's all you have and you're out in the sun, then by all means put it on, because it's better than not having anything. But if you get to choose, if you get the ability to choose which sunscreen, then that's what I recommend ideally avoiding, because the jury's still out. How harmful is it? Well, we know that certain ingredients aren't harmful at all. Zinc oxide, titanium dioxide, avobenzone. Go with those first. And if you need to, go with the oxybenzone and octinoxate. But if you can avoid it, then it's usually best. And a lot of people will tell me, Dr. Youn, what about vitamin D? What about getting sun in my eyes for circadian rhythm support? I'm all for getting sun in the morning, getting sun in the evening. Studies show 15 minutes typically of sun exposure per day usually is sufficient to keep your vitamin D levels up. And if you're not sure, get your vitamin D levels checked and/or definitely consider taking a supplement as well. So I'm a firm believer that getting sun is therapeutic. I live in Michigan, in Detroit. It is cloudy a lot here, and when the sun comes out and you feel that sun on your face, on your body, It is therapeutic. It really helps with your mood. And so I get it. But I also see people who come in with skin cancers on their face that they get taken off and now their faces has got a deformity to it. They're missing parts of their nose, parts of their eyelid, parts of their forehead and stuff like that. And it can be really devastating if you've got a skin cancer on your face that can result in a big open wound that has to be closed. So you want to avoid that. And so ideally, I think that there is a reasonable in-between. I have friends of mine who are dermatologists and they're putting sunscreen on all day, every day. Even if they're going to be in a dark basement all day, they'll still put their sunscreen on. And God bless them if they want to do that, go ahead. And then I have friends of mine who don't put any sunscreen on. And I have relatives of mine, very close relatives, who don't wear any sunscreen. That's up to them. But once again, if it was up to me, I don't want to get a skin cancer on my face. I don't want to get premature aging and have to deal with all these spots. So I try to wear sunscreen most of the time when I can. Now let's shift gears and let's talk about in-office treatments. So you're applying the creams to your skin, you're doing the combination, the triple power of the Youn Beauty Brightening Cream, or you're doing a Hydroquinone cream that you get from your dermatologist. Either way, you're doing the creams, that's helping, but you want to do something more. What else can you do? Well, the easiest thing, and probably one of the best bangs for the buck as far as hyperpigmentation, is IPL. IPL stands for intense pulse light. It's kind of like a laser. BBL is broadband light, which is basically a branded term for an IPL. So BBL, IPL, basically the same thing. And what these do is that they will zap the pigment in the spots. So this is for age spots, not for melasma, but will zap the pigment in those spots. That pigment will turn darker, and usually after about a week, some of that pigment will slough off. I had an IPL done about a month ago, and some of the spots, especially on my left side of my face, turned darker, and some of them have already sloughed off. And so typically, though, IPL treatments, it's not a one and done. Usually upwards of 4 treatments are recommended as a starting point to really get that pigment down. And you have to keep in mind with IPL, the good thing is there's no downtime to it. It's not very painful. At worst, it feels like somebody's maybe snapping a rubber band down your skin a little bit, but there's no downtime. You may get a little bit of redness, but no oozing, no significant swelling. Usually people do really well with it. But you do need to have multiple treatments to get that effect. And you have to keep in mind that it will get rid of that pigment, but it doesn't stop future pigment. And so it's kind of like a snapshot where you get rid of the pigment, you clean it out, but it doesn't prevent new pigment from coming. And that's where the creams are really, really important. So IPL is a great quick fix. You get rid of unwanted pigment fairly quickly, and then you use those creams to keep that pigment at bay, hopefully long term. Now, once again, make sure IPL is just for spots. Do not use it for melasma. There's some reports that IPL can actually make melasma worse. And so you really want to make sure that if somebody's doing IPL on you that they know the difference, because if they start zapping your melasma with IPL, probably not a good idea. Chemical peels are another option to dealing with spots, and also a very economical option. What peels do is that they're acids that are put on the surface of the skin. They precipitate and they create a chemical reaction with the proteins of the skin, and they can cause the upper layers of skin to essentially slough off. Now, I mentioned earlier that the pigment in age spots and sunspots is in the superficial dermis. So ideally, if you do a chemical peel that goes down into the superficial dermis and that peel causes that skin to slough off, it can slough off with some of that pigment as well. And so doing chemical peels are an effective way to reduce unwanted pigmentation. The key, though, is that you have to go deep enough to really see much of a change. So lunchtime chemical peels where they just kind of, do that little peel on your skin and you don't really get, you get maybe a tiny bit of flaking, for a day or two and that's it. Unlikely to do a whole lot for spots, but a more moderate depth chemical peel, one that takes anywhere from 5 to 10 days for the peeling to happen. Now you've gone deeper into that dermis and you're hopefully going to help to get rid of some of that unwanted pigment. With melasma, if you're going to do it, I mentioned earlier that melasma is in that deeper dermis. And so that's something where you'd have to go much deeper with that peel for it to truly be effective with melasma. If you do, let's say, a 3-day downtime chemical peel, it may help melasma a little bit, but in general, not going to be all that effective. You really need to go with a deeper peel. Those are usually done in the office of a dermatologist or a plastic surgeon who usually is monitoring that peel, with, let's say, an esthetician to make sure that the depth is good for you. Also, I want to make sure that you keep in mind that without proper sun protection, doing these peels like IPL, it doesn't prevent those spots from coming back. And so if you're going to do it, really make sure that you are diligent with applying your brightening cream afterwards to keep that at bay. Even better, doing a vitamin C serum in the morning with a brightening cream afterwards, and then at night, brightening cream and a retinol, and now you're really targeting that pigment really aggressively. And then what about lasers? Laser treatments can be used for unwanted pigment. For spots, they can be pretty darn effective for spots, for age spots and sunspots. The laser that's probably most effective right now are the picosecond lasers. Those do not use heat, but they can really help to get rid of some of those unwanted spots. And they really don't have a whole lot of downtime to them. The problem with lasers, and really if you're going to consider a laser for unwanted pigmentation, definitely talk with your dermatologist or a plastic surgeon, because if you're just going after the pigment, then IPL is going to be a lot less expensive. And it's going to be just as effective, if not sometimes more effective than certain lasers. If, however, you're looking for improvement of the pigment, but also for wrinkle reduction, tightening of the skin, stuff like that, then sometimes laser treatments can be a good option, but they're also quite a bit more expensive in general. If you're going to do an ablative laser where you're really getting at that superficial or deep dermis, that's going to come with some downtime and it's going to be quite expensive. And the reason why it's more expensive is because you are paying for the cost of that device. And these lasers cost anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000 or even more than that for a physician to purchase that laser. And you'll have to expect that that cost will then be passed off onto you, the consumer. And so keep that in mind. If you're dealing just with spots and everything else you're happy with, then I wouldn't really put lasers at the top of my list just because bang for your buck is not going to be as good. Go for the IPL or the chemical peels. So I hope this was helpful for you. Pigment is a problem for so many of us. It's something that I myself have dealt with a lot. What I'm doing currently is I'm using a vitamin C serum every morning. I'm also using my Youn Beauty vitamin C serum. I use our CE antioxidant serum every morning. I apply my Youn Beauty brightening cream afterwards. And then at night, I use my Youn Beauty brightening cream and my peptide and bakuchiol moisturizer. And that's because I don't use a retinol a lot on my skin because my skin's super sensitive. I tend to react sometimes to retinol. And so I go with the peptide and bakuchiol. Now, I'll tell you, peptide and bakuchiol, not on my list of targeting pigment, but the brightening cream is. And then I will exfoliate regularly as well, and that can help get better penetration of that. And then finally, what I do is every so often I will get IPL treatments. It's easy because I don't have to pay for it because it's my device and my esthetician does it for me. But that's the other thing that I do to keep that pigment at bay. So I hope this was helpful for you. This is pretty much everything you need to know to treat hyperpigmentation. Melasma is a tough one. Definitely see a dermatologist if that is what you're dealing with. Thank you so much once again for listening and for watching. My name is Dr. Youn. This is the Dr. Youn Show. Once again, if you've been enjoying this podcast, if you could take 2 minutes of your time to leave a rating or review on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast, it really does help me spread the word. And every week I'll give a shout out to somebody who does. All right. Well, thank you so much once again. And I will leave you with this as always. Adopt, don't shop, my friends. Save a life today.